Today I tried to ask out a guy, only to become the butt of a joke for about 30 people. What are your terrible admissions of affection stories? I had the same thing happen to me, albeit without the same level of douchebaggery involved. I did, however, have a pretty bad experience once. This girl and I had been talking online for a couple of years. We'd met in person originally, but we lived in different states, so seeing one another was rather rare. I'd visited her twice, but each time, each of us had both been in relationships, so nothing came of it. Well, the third time we met, things were different. We were both technically single, she was on a break with her boyfriend, and we'd gotten a hotel room together. We had a few glasses of wine, and we were as close to cuddling as two people can be without actually having our arms around one another. We had been talking all evening, about life, the universe, and everything, and the romantic tension was nearing a breaking point. So, finally, I turned to her, she turned to me. "There's something I want to do," I said, "but I'm not sure how you'll take it." She bit her bottom lip, and glanced at my lips. "Well," she replied, maybe you should just try it, and we'll find out." My heart was pounding in my chest. My entire body felt flush and heavy, like I was moving in slow motion. I leaned in, and felt my pulse jump into even higher gear when she leaned towards me, too. Today, finally, after years of talking, after countless times when it just wasn't right between us, after innumerable moments where I'd wanted this to happen, it was finally going to. I was going to kiss her. We got closer, and closer, and then, her head started to go past mine as she put her arms around me. I angled my face a bit, thinking she was going for the embrace first. It was about that time that she pulled back, surprised. "What are you doing?" she asked. I was going to kiss you," I replied. Well, she looked away and played with her hair. "I'm sorry, I thought you were going to come out to me." To this day, I have no idea why she thought I was gay, especially since we'd talked before about the prospect of dating. Later on, I discovered that the guy she was on a break with had come out as gay, as had the guy she'd been dating before him. Maybe she was just trying to preempt what she saw as the inevitable. I told a girl I was into her. She spent the next 2 hours, I only wish I was exaggerating, telling me how terrible I am and everything she didn't like about me. I was pretty crippled by the end, but I was socially awkward back then, so I didn't know how to make her stop. We were friends too, so what she thought about me was important to me. I hope your love wounds heal quickly and you're back up and kicking soon. The world needs more women willing to help out us introverted men. But ouch man, that hurt reading it. Texted a girl after a particularly awesome time at the bar that I had a great time, enjoyed talking to her, and really liked her. Get to reply the next morning saying, "Thanks, but what do you want me to do with that information?" That was pretty much the last time I had any semblance of conversation with her. Whoa, that was harsh. Not me, but we were in one of those really small, like 12 to 15 people, discussion-based capstone classes in college, and this one girl was obviously really into this guy, always trying to sit by him, strike up conversation, back up what he was saying in discussion. It was just obvious to the whole class because we all interacted so much. He was nice to her, but didn't really seem overly interested. One day right before the professor got there and we were all talking and she decided to be all, "Hey, we should get coffee sometime," right in front of everyone. His response was something like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm just really busy right now with school and everything. Don't think I have time." And the whole class was witness to this rejection. I felt so much secondhand embarrassments for her. Ouch. But at least he was nice about it and no one made fun of her. That seems like a cute story compared to the others on this thread. About 2 weeks ago I asked a guy that I've liked for a while, "Is 3 years a while out?" He laughed and said, "Heck no. Why would I do something like that? You've seriously got to be kidding," and now he won't talk to me at all. I don't know why he was so mean about it. We were friends before the incident. Alex is a W. Rejection hurts, but once you've been in love, in a loving relationship, only to have that person fall out of love with you and decide they don't want to be with you after knowing everything about who you are, that is true rejection. And once that has happened, you will be less embarrassed about sticking your neck out and getting turned down for dates, because those are people who don't know the real you. Dating gets easier after the first major heartbreak. Back in middle school, I was talking to one of the most beautiful girls in school on the magnificent and wonderful AIM. I had been friends with her for a little while but had a crush on her that paralleled most young boys' lust for Winnie from the Wonder Years. After some smooth talking and charming flattery, I actually convinced her to agree to date me. I arrive at school the next day, all smiles, sharing the knowledge of the newest match made in middle school heaven, only to be confronted at lunch by her, all her friends and about half of the school watching. The next 5 minutes consisted of berating and denial that left a shame stain on my soul for the next few years. What happened, you ask? Her younger brother found her logged in and away from the computer. To make it worse, I knew him from an after-school club. He shared the hilarious story with me that afternoon. Not knowing it was me, I had to laugh with him at my own misery to avoid further humiliation. TLDR. Tricked into thinking I was dating popular girl only to be torn down in front of the school. Then had to later join in the celebration of the trick with the trickster himself. That type of stuff would make me want to turn into the cleric from Equilibrium and practice gun kata. I took some bad advice from my sister and got this guy I liked pillows and blankets for his birthday. To be fair, the ones he had were in bad shape. I didn't realize how creepy it could seem. Yeah, it was a bad day. That sounds like a pretty kick-ass gift to me, and also seems like you would be interested in boning. I say this again and again, and few people listen, but here goes one more time. This is about as embarrassing as it gets, but so what? In a week you'll be laughing at it, and you lost nothing by asking. And you could have gained a great date. You didn't, but so what? His loss. When you get older you'll understand. It's not the things that you did that you regret, it's the things you didn't do. So now go ask that other cute guy out, and if he says no and starts openly laughing at you, just smile and then go do the next thing in your analogous bucket and know that someday you'll have a full life of great experiences and that first guy probably won't. In 7th grade, I told the girl I had a crush on that I liked her and wanted to know if she would like to be my girlfriend. Her face turned to one of confusion before she began shouting, "No, Bahama Bob. I told you I am a lesbian," over and over in front of a crowd of 8th graders. She was not a lesbian. Bahama Bob just sounds like one of those names you have to grow into. Just wait until you hit your mid-40s, with your gold chain resting upon your sweet V of chest pubes leading down to your balfro. You'll be getting all the mid-20s chicks you could want. Sounds like you dodged a douche bullet. Letting a girl down in a classy if not at least dignified manner is pretty elementary. Exactly this. Better to try and find out he's not worth your time than to pine incessantly and wondering what if you tried, got shot down and are better off for it. Don't let this discourage you in the future. OP. Also stop being friends with Alex if you are. He sounds petty and vindictive. I have a pretty good SAP attempting to flirt story. I had just moved into the dorms to start college and really didn't know anyone. We had had our first floor meeting that evening and pretty much everyone was in the dining center. I was in line for the soda fountain when I noticed a guy in front of me with his roommate. I had seen them both at the floor meeting and thought the one of them was pretty cute. I had this whole internal thought process going on. It was pretty much college is going to be different than high school. No more incredibly socially awkward Alyot. You can do this. Unfortunately, the only thing I had actually noticed about him other than his attractiveness was that he was much taller than I originally thought. We had all been sitting. I walked right up to him and with all of the confidence in the world blurted out, "You're taller standing up than you are sitting down." Cue horrendously awkward silence. We kinda stared at each other as what I had just said slowly hit me. His roommate then said, without skipping a beat, "Yeah, it tends to work that way." Both of them walked away as I held my empty cup in shame. I've been dating that roommate for over a year now. Both of them claim to have no memory of the incident but tease me about it regardless. Yay. Happy ending. This is my story of blowing someone's admission of affection into a million pieces. For vacation I went on a road trip around my state and hung out with friends living all over the place for a couple of days at a time. A co-worker was living with his family as it was summer, on campus jobs, near the biggest city in the state. I say that in trade for letting me crash at his folks' house. I would take him to see a concert in the city. He agrees and we spend the day getting Thai food, checking out the ocean, walking around town, watching stand-up on cable. We get in line for the show after this blissful day of unintentionally romantic activities and I make some flip comment like, "I'd never date a guy with a car like that." After a ricer goes farting by, he goes, "Well, I'd never own a car like that." I reply, "I'd never date you anyway." KQ the scene of Lisa breaking Ralph's heart. I had no idea I was leading this kid on and it was such a fricked up thing to say. We went to the show and didn't dance. I slept in his room. Did I mention he shared a room with two little brothers and I slept in his twin size bed while the boys had to crash in the living room per his mom's orders? To this day I feel like such a freaking butthole. I'd say his name on here but I know it's not cool, but if you're reading this, man, I am sorry. I was a douchebag but I just didn't have a clue. I went to a BBQ at my friend's house a couple weekends ago and around the fire I noticed a girl that I had fallen for several years earlier. I was quite drunk and I ended up just blurting out how she was the first woman I had ever loved blah blah blah. This was in front of about 15 people. To make things worse her response was, "Who are you?" It's guys like Alex that make the rest of the world worse for the rest of us. Telling someone to go for it when they know exactly how the other person feels is a C move, regardless of gender. My very first crush worked at a gas station with me. He drove a beat up old caddy, had a lazy eye, and his was mouth wired shut due to a construction accident. I thought he was the most interesting man I'd ever met. AOL had just come out and like most people I was idiotically eager to abuse this newfound power. I searched the name of my crush and surprise, he had an AOL account. Back then AOL not only told you when someone was online, but it also told you which chat room the person was in if they were online, which did not bode well for my desire not to be all stalkery. I watched him for about a week, since he had no clue that I even had an account or what my name was, until I finally came to the conclusion things were getting out of hand. Not only was my secret verism weird but it was sort of pathetic. If I really liked this guy I needed to say something to him or get over it already. So, I wait until AOL tells me he's online and shoot him over a message. I make a point of telling him who I am right away so it won't be like I was trying to get secret information out of him, like I could have, and more like two mature adults having a conversation. Things seemed to go well for a while. I was witty, I was funny, I was edgy, and then he signed off and I thought we'd have a sort of rapport when next we ran into each other. I was wrong. I go to work and the next thing I know everyone I work with is asking me why I'm stalking the pump guy, what we called the gas attendants, with his mouth wired shut. Ironically, he had told someone I was his stalker and that person had told everyone else. I hadn't so much as held a guy's hand because my parents were just exceedingly strict. I was so embarrassed I shot him off the angriest email I could and continued to follow him into chat rooms after the fact just to mess with his head. I believe my thinking at the time was, "You think this is stalking? I'll show you stalking." Obviously this then moved me from the pathetic stalker category and into the crazy B domain, but with my embarrassment being so severe I decided being feared was better than being needy. Totally unrelated, but he ended up leaving the state. Turns out he was planning on leaving the state from the very beginning, which was why he was in that state's chat room in the first place. TLDR. Honesty isn't always the best policy, but at least it kept me from giving up my virginity to a man I would most likely never see again. Yikes. I had a schoolboy crush in a 6th grade on this girl Jennifer. Schoolboy crush equals she was popular and had probably smiled at me once, so it must have been love. I was a nerdy, scrawny little guy before hitting a growth spurt in 7th grade, and I vaguely remember spending a few weeks working up the courage to ask Jennifer if she'd go out with me. I remember walking up to her locker, asking her, and the look of amused disbelief that immediately crossed her face. When she started laughing and said no way, I immediately realized what a bad idea it had been. before I could slink away, though. She actually asked me to ask a friend of mine if he would go out with her. I must have been blinded by preteen angst, though, as I remember interacting with her several years later in high school and realizing that she was literally one of the most blindly stupid people I'd ever met. She was very nice, though. She just apparently had no sense of tact or any sort of self-awareness. I told Alex to tell you that I'm not interested, and that I would like you to stop bothering me. You're better off without him. He could have handled the specific situation with more tact, but more importantly, he should have handled the situation like an adult and told you himself instead of delegating to someone else. A common tactic for teasing me in years past was for people to tell me that they liked me or that they knew somebody liked me. I however was smart enough to know it was all just cruel mocking, but now I'm afraid that I can't tell when someone really likes me apart from when they're just trying to tease me. Being bullied emotionally sucks. I did too much acid once and convinced myself that I was in love with my best friend. So I left her a note with only lyrics from Star's songs. Luckily she figured out that I was completely tripping out of my mind and laughed it off. We're still friends 5 years later. Sounds like you got rejected hardest of all. First off, frick Alex with a wrench. Upvote for sympathy. Secondly, I made a fool out of myself after being goaded on by friends to kiss a girl I had a crush on for a year. She rejected me and literally sent me flat on my butt. Pushed me away and front kicked my gut. I flew into a fit of rage at my friends afterwards and went on a wide denouncing spree. It all ended up being the talk of the whole school for the month after and I ended up alone with no friends. It got better for me though. The said girl eventually came up to me and said your friends are jerks. I would never do that to you. We got talking and became friends. We're still friends to this day. Yep, kissing isn't a very good pickup line, in general. Good lesson to learn. I hope you were okay after the kick, but it should help you remember. Lady here, don't let this stop you from asking guys out. Brush yourself off and go get tiger. You just lived through what was probably the worst case like a champ. It's all uphill from here. There was a guy in my Latin class that I really liked. Because I'm terrible at talking to people, I wrote a letter to him, telling him I really liked him. I also said in the letter that if he wasn't interested, that he should feel free to ignore the letter. I put it in his bag one day and walk away quickly, figuring he'd read it later. Next Latin class, I ask him if he got the letter, and he starts laughing. Yep, you're kidding, right? I mean, you gotta be kidding. Without waiting for a response from me, he shakes his head in amusement and continued on with the assignment. TLDR. Told him my feelings via letter. His response is, you gotta be kidding me. In 8th grade, so this was a good while ago, I had a huge crush on this guy, let's call him Bill, who was in some of my classes. It was always tough to tell if he liked me or not, and I didn't want to be the one to say it. We were on the bus together one time, and he was goading me about who I liked, because I'll let it slip that I liked someone. Finally, I built up my courage and told him that it was him I liked. The following occurred. Bill, oh, well, I'm sorry, but I don't like you like that. Me, okay, I understand. Bill, funny thing is, I actually like a girl. He then made me 20 questions him to find out that he liked a girl that I wasn't particularly fond of. It was terrible. Since then, I've never told anyone that I liked about my feelings, lest something similar occur. I'd been pining over a straight guy for a couple of months. Mistake 1. Well, I finally worked up the courage to see if he was possibly interested in something with me. His response: yeah, I'm not really gay, but if I were, I don't think I'd be interested in you, man. We're friends, and I'm not really into fat people. Yeah, luckily it was over the summer we graduated, so I don't have to see him for another 10 years, or ever. It's not mandatory to attend reunions. Even if you do go, you don't have to search him out. If he does seek you out, just play it cool. I applaud you for having the courage to ask him out. I have had to endure the same, and I feel your pain and embarrassment. I hope this doesn't dissuade you from asking any more guys out. Some of us would love it. Also, Alex is a douche. In 5th grade, I wrote a love poem to a girl I liked and accidentally stuck it in the desk of my best friend. After being called gay for a little bit, the girl got it and proceeded to keep it into middle school, letting other girls who slept over read it. It was called Love is Black. Not a throwaway because every girl I tell now says that this was actually romantic as frick, even if it was bad poetry. Thanks for not telling us the poem, cause you know, we would like to hear it. When I was 13, I was crushing hard on a guy at school. He was adorable, sweet, etc. Man, he seemed perfect. So, for the upcoming school dance, being the student body president, I decided to ask him to the dance. He said yes. Fast forward 2 weeks, I have a brand new outfit. I wait by the door for him with his pass. When he gets there, he takes his pass and smiles. I get called over to take care of something, so I tell him I'll meet him by the fountain in a few minutes. Well, when I'm done, I go over to meet him at the fountain. I see that he has another girl on his arm, and she's hanging onto him. I go over and ask him what he's doing, and ask him if he wanted to go dance. He told me no, and to go away. I pouted for a minute, and he walked by me and knocked me into the fountain. This was in early March and I was wearing a thin dress. I was soaked and it was cold and I'd sprained my ankle. So, I just sat there, unable to get up, for an hour, just crying. Pretty much. I try to be nice, give a cute guy the student president's girlfriend treatment, all that stuff, and I end up with a sprained ankle, freezing, and crying, in a fountain. After that, every time I went through the halls, somebody would laugh at me for that. Holy crap, what an butthole. That guy needs to get a spoon up his urethra. Wow, that guy Alex needs to be punched in his face and the guy you asked out is in butthole. Don't let that get you down, you don't want to date a jerk off like that anyways. What a douche indeed. Some people never grow up though and get their kicks from some sick things. This post may be crushing to Redditors though. We have enough fear about social situations as it is, let alone people telling us they actually happen. I've been turned down a couple times, but I've also been successful a couple times. The guy I'm currently spending my time with is someone I just handed my phone number to. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it goes really well. It probably helps if they're made out of sand. Sophomore in high school, I decided to go to the park with my friends, so I hop on the school bus with them to their place first. They notice the girl I've been talking to is on the same bus as well. They egged me on and on to walk her home. They wouldn't stop pushing me to walk her home, so I did. Problem is she wasn't expecting me to. Being the socially awkward penguin I was at that time, I asked her if I could walk her home in a low voice. So we began walking towards her house, which was roughly 8 to 9 blocks away. How awkward was it? She mentioned at least 2 or 3 times, "You don't have to walk me home." I walk back to hang out with my friends at the park after that, and they are all yay buddy. I never let them know about how weird the walk was between me and her. Needless to say, that situation with her was so awkward, it pretty much severed any chances I had with her. We just kind of stopped talking to each other after that. 8th grade. Asked a girl from my neighborhood, same bus to and from school, out while at school. She agreed but I didn't see her on the bus after. Got to school the next day, in shop class, where my seat is, there was a humiliating rejection note wrote from her, in Sharpie, and I thought she was a down-to-earth type of girl. Middle schoolers can be really cruel. Those were not fun years. In high school I, male, was part of a group of all female friends. I had a crush on one of them for quite a while and come junior year I decided to go for it. I brought a rose to school and was gonna wait till she asked about it to tell her it was for her and ask her out. Well, for whatever reason she was the only person who didn't ask me about the rose. So come the end of the school day I decided, screw it, I'm just gonna do this. I walk up and ask her if she wants to go bowling or maybe see a movie. She says yes and lights up. We set up plans for the next day. I give her the rose, all is well. Score a victory for me. That night she messages me on AIM. Yeah, feeling older every day anyway. I'm assuming she wants to confirm details, maybe meet slightly later, something of that nature. Nope. She tells me we should just be friends and cancels the date on AIM. I had gone all day in high school a socially awkward boy holding this flower. Asked her out in person. Gone through all this trouble and my friend of 2 years couldn't be bothered to call me and tell me no. Nearly ruined my friendship with that group because somehow I had screwed up. TLDR. Brought a rose to school. Asked an old friend out. She says yes and later rescinds a yes on AIM. I've admired a friend of a friend for a while. Don't really know him, but he's cute and seems nice. Because I don't know him, I was always hesitant to do more than have quick conversations. He doesn't talk much. My friend always insisted the guy is just shy and to go for it. About a month ago I was out and after having a bit too much liquid courage, my friend encouraged me to go for it once and for all. I sat down, talked to him, then kissed the guy. He pulled back after a second and gave me some apology excuse, basically telling me thanks but no. I was very shamed and quickly left him alone. During high school there was a group of us that were pretty much always together. 5 girls and 1 boy. As you can imagine, all of us, except maybe one, had a crush on him at different points of time. I had been building up to it for a while, so finally I decided to just ask him out. It's a rule among teenage girls that you don't date the boy your best friend has a crush on without permission. This was in the days when AIM was a big thing, so I'm miming all my girlfriends, making sure it was okay with all of them, and talking about how nervous I was. I had to pee, and said be right back to one of my friends without reading whatever she had sent me. I came back from the bathroom to find out that she had asked if I would like her to ask him for me, and when I said be right back she took that as yes. She asked him out for me. Embarrassing. And he said no. Upsetting, but it's okay. I sort of knew he wouldn't say yes. Somehow, things between him and I don't get super awkward, and the very next day, I'm talking to him online. I'm also talking on the phone to a different girlfriend of mine. The 3 of us are having a somewhat difficult to put together 3-way conversation. She can't get online. He can't get on the phone. I can no longer remember exactly why it needed to happen right at that moment, but he ended up asking her out using me as a proxy. It stung. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.